Welcome. We have our Studio Galaxy 473 in Confero and a regular program on Saturday. On Saturday is an important day for us in Studio Galaxy as we interact with the equalizers. And we encourage you to participate in the program, subscribe to the program, pick up the telephone, give us a call. Number to call is 410 3030. Share the program. We basically provoke discussion. We are not satisfied that we are where we should be where agriculture is concerned. This morning I'm in the company of Joshua and we're going to speak about honey. Honey. Throughout the problems or the challenges we have in Grenada is not unique. It exists throughout the Caribbean. The governments of the Caribbean, the agricultural exports of the Caribbean, the different agricultural colleges in the Caribbean have practically ignored honey. They see it as a medicine, and that's it. They don't look at it from the economic importance. And I think that is where we're going to spend some time. The economic importance of honey. We're going to speak about it. We're going to make suggestions. We go zero in on who in Grenada, who in Dominica, who in St. Lucia, who in Jamaica, and who in St. Vincent. That should prepare to take on this challenge of honey. And with me, very comfortable with Joshua on agriculture. Welcome, brother.
Thank you. Good morning to you and good morning to all our listeners in the diaspora, locally and worldwide. Happy to be discussing beekeeping this morning. Honey is often associated with beekeeping, but there's so much more to beekeeping than honey. Although we have challenges and in the industry, we don't always focus on the opportunities in the industry. And I think, I hope we can touch on some of the opportunities this morning in the industry. Later on, we'll have a guest who will be phoning in, I've been told. And he has a plan for the industry. So we'll be discussing that a little later on when he calls in. But in the meantime, let's just lay the framework for the whole agriculture industry and bees. Now, I've been learning as I've been going with different guests and Mr. Pierre, in terms of the importance of the bees to the whole agriculture industry. It seems to me, based on what they're telling me, is that bees are the foundation if you are going to have an agricultural industry. Without bees and the pollination of the bees for the different crops, be it mangoes, be it pineapples, whatever, but the bees are crucial, critical if you are going to have, an agricultural industry. So the importance of bees are so far reaching. I don't feel, as if I have all the knowledge that is needed to share. But hopefully, Mr. Pierre will have more than I and can share it as we go along. So maybe we can start, Mr. Pierre, as somebody who's been involved in the industry, by just telling us concisely, what the bees does. People hear the word pollination, but what is pollination?
Well, basically, bees perhaps is one of the greatest pollinator in our region. And sometimes you watch ministries of agriculture and government speak about fertilizer. They go all over the world looking for fertilizer. And they don't understand that if you have bees, more bees in your country, automatically you will increase your productivity.
Okay.
Bees are very good for the cucurbits, your mango,
Mm-hmm.
The citrus trees, coconut flowers.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do best.
Yeah.
They pollinate. And sometimes I always say, we don't have to know everything, but we could look at other people. If you see other people doing something and they are successful,
Yeah.
that should provoke your level of curiosity. United States farmers rain bees to put on their farm
Yes. Yes.
to increase pollination.
Yes.
And that alone perhaps should arouse the interest of we in the Caribbean.
Yeah, and their farms tend to be pretty big, so they feel that they need their own hives on their farm in order to increase the production of their farm moving forward.
They said that's the yes, they use United States. It's a big thing in the United States to rain bees from farmers. They move bees from Canada to the United States, truckload for pollination purposes. Our country is a 2 by 2 country. We're small,
Uh-huh.
you know. There is no need perhaps to rain bees. But what we need to do is to increase numerically,
Hmm.
increase the amount of hives in the country.
Yeah.
And automatically you would see an increase in production. In
Yeah.
citrus, in mangoes, in the cucurbits, etc.
Okay. Well, we had a guest who was speaking to me earlier on in the week and said he wanted to discuss the whole kind of economic possibilities and the growth and development of the beekeeping industry. His name was Craig Barry. He lives out in Carriacou in Hillsborough. And he said to me that he would call in this morning so that he can share some of his ideas that he have in terms of how we can develop the industry. So, Craig, if you're listening in this morning, feel free to call in anytime you want to discuss your thoughts and ideas on the industry. Mr. Pierre, is it 410 3030?
410 30 30.
Yeah, so
410 30 30.
yeah, so that's the number to call in.
And perhaps we could spend some time on the economic importance.
Yes, I think Craig wanted to talk about the economic importance. And just as you were saying, you know, you're looking at the bees pollinating and almost doubling your production just by having the bees around.
Significantly increasing your
Mm-hmm,
production
mm-hmm,
and the uniformity.
mm-hmm.
For instance, you go in cucurbits, the uniformity,
The
you would
uni-
see it because they are better pollinated.
right,
And maybe then you waste a lot less fertilizer
right,
because
okay.
we're fighting fertilizer when the issue is more pollination.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I don't know if our intelligentsia is asleep. It's quite true, bee stings. And that's a big fear. And once you walk in with bee, you get sting. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how well you protect yourself.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes when you finish coming from the bee and you're going home, a bee stinging.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ask anybody how many mosquitoes that bite them, they would not be able to count how much mosquito they bite.
Mm.
They may be able to count how much sting they get from bee.
Mm-hmm.
And mosquito kill more people in the world than all other animals put together.
Whoa.
So we should not be afraid of bees.
No.
We should feed mosquito.
Yes.
And while on the side, most people breed their own mosquito.
Mm-hmm.
They have little pot with water, whether it's this flower pot or the dog, the things they feed the dog with, days they don't empty the water, the pigs. So they gather their own hybrid mosquito around the house
Yeah.
and share it with the neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no, this thing about fear of bees is a question of training.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to spend some time on the economic importance. One hive could give you about 5 gallons of honey. One hive, a good hive could give you about 5 gallons of honey.
Mm-hmm.
Between 5 to 20 gallons of honey per annum you could get from one hive.
Mm-hmm.
So we will work with a minimum because most of us are not
Mm-hmm.
good managers. We don't take what we do seriously. So if you have 100 hives, and I like to use the number 100.
Okay. It's easy to follow.
Yeah, easy to follow, and I can check so good. And particularly if you are serious in beekeeping, there is no reason why within 3 years you shouldn't have 100 hives.
Right.
In 3 years you should have 100 hives. The last time I met a young man and he asked me if it is expensive to go in bee. I said, this car that you're driving, how much you pay for it? Because he has not just started to work. I guess his parents help him buy the car. I say your parents should not help you buy the car. They should make you get involved in a business. And when the business make money, you buy the car. But if you start in beekeeping, as I said, one hive could give you between 5 to 20 gallons of honey. So if you have 100 hives, you're talking about 500 gallons of honey, 500 gallons per annum. And if you're selling a gallon of honey for $100,
Wow.
gallon, you must be the most generous person in the world now to sell a gallon of honey for $100. You're talking $50,000.
That's good living. That's good.
$50,000 goes.
Yeah.
Some of the costs to start, perhaps we may say it's expensive if you're poor. If you don't have nothing. You didn't go in the bank, you don't have money to go in the bank, you start practically without any finance except what you put in.
Yeah.
That might be a little slower.
Yeah.
After you buy a bee suit and a smoker, and if you take care of these things could last you for a couple of years. So in a worst case scenario, if you start in bees with $10,000, because a lot of things, a bee man don't show things, sometimes the board by the road you see. Sometimes even a cardboard box.
Okay.
You could convert a cardboard box to a temporary hive.
Right. So you use the existing,
Yes.
You could recycle.
You could recycle things. And so individual, from an economic point of view, it is extremely economical to go in bees. I don't know why. It difficulty baffles my mind. Why the University of the West Indies, why the colleges, why the ministries of agriculture never seriously invest in bees.
Yeah, and bees underpin the whole agriculture ecosystem, and not only does it underpin the economic ecosystem, but it's economically very viable in terms of sustaining a family and creating a living. It's something that probably we've missed as an opportunity in terms of creating employment and in terms of having that sustainability that we talk about all the time, because the key is to just have bees, and it doubles your potential outputs in terms of production by the pollination process.
I tend to support Donald Trump. He has modified his position because of pressure. I have not modified mine. When you hear they talking about the environment, I say it's a hoax. This is not that we shouldn't be concerned about the environment, but the severity and urgency is a hoax. And even in Grenada and the smaller countries, it's a good way for them to attract funding from big countries, but it is a hoax. They're not interested in addressing the issues of the environment. Honey is used as a medicine. In Grenada, honey is not used as a sugar.
Okay.
Honey is used as a medicine.
Okay, okay, okay.
And if tomorrow you was able to increase your production by 1,000%, you
Hmm.
still would not be able to satisfy the market.
Right, right. So the market has a lot of room.
Even though you increase your honey production by 1,000%, you
Mhm.
cannot satisfy the market. And this is one of the challenges that we have. And we speak about honey and we mention pollination. You have a call on the line? Yes, let's take the call. Yes, caller, come in. Well, what happened to the caller?
Hello.
Yes, my brother. Welcome.
Yeah, yes. Good morning. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you? I apologize. We had some connectivity issues from downtown Hillsborough this morning. I apologize.
Yeah.
Hi, good morning, caller. Can you give us your name, please?
Mr. Lewis, good morning. Craig Barry, your good friend up in Hillsborough.
Oh, Craig, hi, good morning. How are you doing? You've been talking about bees for the longest while. I have one of our bee men with me in the studio talking about bees this morning. I know you're very much interested in bees and doing something in bees. Tell us what your interest is, just to begin with.
Well, Joshua, I heard Mr. Pierre give his, early comments, and basically he's right on the money. My name is Craig Barry. I'm from the United States. I'm hopefully a member in esteem in local Hillsborough agricultural, poultry, and beekeeping community. But one of the top issues that you and I have been discussing, is pollination. So in the United States, we have a fun book. It's called, something like Beekeeping for Dummies.
Uh
Well,
huh.
we have to write that book on pollination because that's really the key to really open up some of the financial, economic, benefits that we have that can be realized through beekeeping. Mr. Pierre hit it right out of the park.
The,
Okay.
the amazing thing is, I don't understand why agriculture exports so unagricultural. Because easily they would have recognized by now the importance of it.
Yeah.
But we have some bees in Caracou.
You know what we did? I work with Bernard McIntosh. I know we worked on his colonies, and I believe he still had a couple that survived barrel. But I know most of the beekeepers that are notable in our market, and for the most part, barrel wiped them out.
Oh.
We have a thorough local bee community in trees and such. But
Yeah.
as far as beekeepers and reestablishing beekeeping, it's been a challenge.
Yeah, a
All right.
couple of years ago, we established the bees in Caracou for the first time in history, as far as we know.
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed.
And we started it with an agricultural farm on government farm.
Hmm.
Yes,
But
yes.
government wasn't so interested.
Well, yeah, and again, and to speak to mentorship, which has been so important. I mean, Bernard McIntosh has really been a mentor. As a former minister of agriculture here, I think he was very much a visionary in beekeeping and the essence of pollination, and the importance of crop and farming development. I've worked with Tevin and also Permanent Secretary Williams. We've got to reduce that gap. I think we've got to create more education, understanding, because I spoke to P.S. Williams in an email last week, and I basically encouraged and invited him to participate in some of the stakeholders to really look at and reestablish bees. Because in my view, as a Wall Street investment banker in New York and London for many years, it's to go into a market, do risk assessment, do gap analysis, and clearly, without an articulated strategy with Mr. Beatrice, the Minister of Agriculture involved here locally, we're chasing our tail, and it's been frustrating. But nonetheless, we're dealing with a very entrepreneurial community. Through the insight and help of Josh, we've been able to forge quickly in poultry. We're going to go forward. We know how to raise domestic and international businesses. We're going to bring best practices to beekeeping, but basically leverage the materials that Joshua has put into play and other stakeholders in the Poultry Association to create a foundation for poultry. We have to adapt similar thinking and leadership, Mr. Pierre, in beekeeping, because Joshua and I go back and forth. We laugh, but the local players, although we're a small country, okay, we can raise the bar with education, preparation, strategy, execution. So not only to satisfy the needs of poultry and beekeeping, agriculture, and increasing the quality and quantity of agriculture produced for our local residents, then we have a surplus. Then we can participate in the doors that our prime minister has really opened through CARICOM and explore other trade opportunities. We have opportunities like with Guyana, Belize, Barbados, Jamaica, but we need to get a seat at that table. Once we have that seat at that table, we have the right people, the right policies, the right financial capabilities. Grenada is a unique, beautiful, protected island. We have virgin soil. We've got wonderful people. We need to raise the bar in education. We need to, show some leadership and entrepreneurialism. We have the basic tools. We have to excite the youth. We have to, work with the inmates. We're going to be meeting with the director of prisons next week to talk about an inmate program, which I've implemented in the United States very successfully. So we have the basic tools. We've got a blessed environment, a blessed economy. We have to insert some leadership. We have to open some closed doors. And as I like to say, we're off to the races.
That we are all in this together. We are a tri-island state, and the whole aspect of agriculture that Mr. Pierre spoke about this morning in terms of underpinning agriculture, we have to get it going. But one of the things Mr. Pierre spoke to me earlier on, I think just before the program started, so you would not have been privy to that conversation. He wanted to focus really on sharing with people the potential economic benefit in terms of as a family or a beekeeper or as a nation, creating beekeepers, creating honey, and the secondary products that are available in terms of the whole beekeeping industry. One of the things that he felt was that we don't have a holistic idea in terms of what bees can really do, not only the pollination, but the other secondary products that they provide, the economic stimulus benefit. And it's like, it feels to me sometimes like we're planting trees and we have no fertilizer. And it feels to me, listening to some of the talk, it's almost like the bees are the fertilizers that spring up. The produce Mr. Pierre said to me earlier on in the program, just by pollination, we can double our production. So the economic spin-off, even if you're not an expert in beekeeping, just listening is tremendous. Talk to us a little bit about the economic spin-off that you see.
Well, that's something that could probably be addressed with you guys over the next couple hours, but I'll try to keep it short and sweet, sweet as honey. Okay.
Okay.
But let's look at it. Let's look at it from the top down. Okay. As Mr. Pierre suggested, pollination is a multi-billion-dollar industry in the United States. Now, granted, change in geography, change in population, blah blah blah. But the primary markets for pollination are in maybe 4 or 5 primary states. Most people would recognize citrus production as an example in Florida and California. Arguably, it's probably some of the best citrus, grapefruit, and related products in the world. Now, the orange growers have a major association. Okay, they realize the value. They actually bid for pollination. They bid for bees. The problem we've had in the United States, as in many places, is we've had problems with mites. But some of the solutions that we plan on bringing to Grenada through a company called Bee & Comb Grenada, it's a new corporation that Floyd Thomas and I have established with your help, Josh. We appreciate that and your leadership and your vision. But basically what we did is when I came here 2 years ago, just real quickly about my background, like who is this guy who talks funny, probably talks way too fast. Who is this guy? Well, I'm Craig Barry. I'm from New York. I met some wonderful folks in Brooklyn. I was living in Brooklyn a couple of years ago. I was about to, retire, looking for wonderful, unique places to start my business, but mostly fish, get into sailing and enjoy Caribbean and, the Grenadian lifestyle. Well, lo and behold, got down here 6 months. It's like, okay, well, this is great. We have to find a golf course. I was told that there is a golf course in Grenada. So we still haven't found that yet, but we're still seeking it, Joshua. So I'm going to encourage you to help me with that. But In any event, we started to see some opportunities that just really jumped out in poultry. And then my passion was to really do a major legacy corporation that would really add value to an emerging country, basically tap into my skill sets, my contact, my network in beekeeping. And that's where things really started to develop. So I really felt as a Christian, my purpose in life at this stage of life, using my experience, my contacts, all the mistakes, all the successes, to really focus on delivering, sound judgment and value to an industry realized through poultry and beekeeping was my place and my calling. And every day is blessed. I live in favor, and Grenada has just been a blessing. I feel like I've been asserted to what is the scripture? When the Jews, when the Christians actually became grafted to the vine. I feel like I'm grafted to Grenada. I live purposely. Beekeeping is an important part of that. The economic values from the top down is increased revenue in honey production, in pollination. But the thing that people don't talk about is the rearing of queen bees, brood production. Brood is a larvae. It's basically the stage of life where bees develop. They turn into honeybees, then they productive. But really what we're going to do is we're going to deliver a brood enterprise business. And what that means is that farmers that need bees during a primary honey flow or honey season, if for some reason they have a depopulation due to mites or virus or bacteria, we can go in there, we can basically save their population, provide them with adequate bees, which is a problem in Grenada. A lot of apiaries are under-managed. Hive management needs to be improved because without significant population of bees, north of 100,000 bees in a colony, you're not going to have the surplus production that we feel that we can bring to Grenada through best practices. So clearly you're going to have economic value in tax, job creation. The challenge, however, is that people also have to step up. They have to be exposed to the industry. They have to be educated. They have to be prepared. It's no different than if they're, entering the business world, the agricultural world, whatever aspect of life, individuals are pursuing. They need training, they need education, they need mentorship to be successful. So these are some of the cultural values we're going to be introducing through Bee to Comb, to move that forward. But economic development, again, my friends here in Carriacou, after Beryl, they're struggling. When I talk to business-related people, we need to do more to interject capital and get jobs and people making good wages. And it can be done, in my view, more quickly through agriculture. So again, if we can get, the political machine lined up in our favor, educated, understand the values, specifically in Carriacou where I live, it's going to impact Carriacou economy more quickly. We've made some tremendous progress in Grenada with major stakeholders in most of the major parishes. And those parishes are going to realize economic value, the job creation, job development, opportunities for small business, which I know you're concerned about. But I'm interested in integrating, beekeeping, apiculture as an industry, a serious career industry. We want to expose that to families that are looking for supplementary income. But, when you do your artificial intelligence search, it's going to classically mean that an investment in beekeeping is going to raise your agricultural value by 30%. I think Mr. Pierre said 50, so let's settle on 40%, valuation enhancement. But at the end of the day, the summary really is more revenue coming from agriculture, more jobs, more opportunity, and more opportunity for entrepreneurs and small business development, which I think is a path for Grenada to really, consider seriously.
Yeah, thank you for that. Because everybody needs to make a contribution as a state of Grenada. We know part of our state in Carriacou has been devastated. We know it's going to take years to get it back on track. And we had a guest last week, and he was saying, while the grass is growing, the horse is starving. So we need something short term, immediate, medium term, and long term in terms of our economy. So I really appreciate that. But before I ask you too much, I just want you to clarify for me in terms of relationship. I picked up you want to engage the youth, you want to engage the schools, you want to engage families, you want to engage farmers, etc. But in terms of national government, we're a small state, and we almost operate a private public partnership in almost everything that we do. What is the relationship do you see between a venture that you're talking about and the state? What is it the state can do to help facilitate?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the thing that's been frustrating, again, going back to that gap analysis. I've dealt with countries all over the world, and particularly developing countries where where the vision has been set by leadership to really pursue best practices and integrate agriculture strategically. I think we need to work with the stakeholders. We need to coordinate meetings with Minister Cornwall of Finance. We're in the process of meeting with Mr. Bagwell and his team. Ms. St. Louis has been very helpful facilitating those meetings. But I think at the end of the day, Joshua, what we need to do is we need to be on the same page. I think that rightfully so, there's been certain sectors of agriculture that I've looked at that have underperformed. And again, with a couple of different corrections in terms of leadership, policy, mentorship, we have to execute. It's like, to me, there's an opportunity right now. So we do have resources. There was a gift. I spoke to the U.S. Embassy a couple of weeks ago. They gave NADMA a gift of about $44 million, and that was earmarked for food security and related issues. Okay, so that money needs to be allocated, where it was intended to go. And again, I have very good contacts with senior leadership of the United States and Agriculture Department of State, et cetera. And hopefully, in changes in Washington, that influence will be able to extend so that we can work some strategic capital. U.S. aid has been a strong player. Samaritan Trust, World Kitchen have been significant players. But at the end of the day, these players, as we realized through some of the borough relief funding, is these guys are very sophisticated. They have relationships all over the world. And when we receive funds, we have to step up to the bar. We have to act as fiduciaries. Those funds have to be managed, allocated, and reinvested. And I think collectively, as part of a community and public sector, private sector, we have to have transparent conversations. Okay, why? Now, come on, we're not going to change the way things have been going on here for 50 years. That's ingrained in the culture. But what we can do is stop playing small ball and play big ball. Okay, in New York, we say go big or go home. So there's an opportunity, and I think there's a transition, and we have to find that happy place where culture, business, and government are seeking a realistic vision in agriculture. And that's our vision. We head out, without vision, my people failed, my people died. And I think that goes to say with the future of agriculture.
Perhaps we should constantly put vision with money. I like to call it economic shock therapy. There are a number of people that involved in aspect agriculture and they're only spinning top in mud. And the political will is not there. Not nowhere in the Caribbean, the political will is. One of the challenges.
Mr. Pierre, excuse me for interrupting. Yeah, but you know what? Look, as entrepreneurs and as leaders and visionary, we all get frustrated. We'd like to think, as entrepreneurs in particular, we'd like things to move quickly.
Then sideline the political will.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So I was involved maybe 10 years ago with a major paradigm shift. I was an investment banker. I was involved with basically changing legislation that all the bankers, the whole real estate, mortgage foreclosure, established groups said, don't even waste your time. It's never going to happen. Well, because of the vision, the recognition of the problem, the impact of so many millions of people that were infected by, bad economy and mortgage laws, et cetera, we were able to lobby, legislate, and change major foreclosure laws that are still in those books today in Washington, and they've actually been integrated federally in the United States. So that was no small achievement. But again, at the end of the day, as I think Joshua said, we are a community. We're 100,000 people. I mean, there's counties in some of the smallest states in the United States that have more than 100,000 people. So what we have to do is we have to make a decision as a community, as a culture. Where do we want to take Grenada? This 50th year, we got a punch in the face with Beryl. We started off great. Everybody was excited about 50. They were thinking about the next 50. But in order to reach that next 50, we have to have some tangible plan. We have to have some coordination with leadership. And I think what it boils down to is that, again, we have to get away from the small ball concept and think big. We have to think globally. there's huge opportunities. Even though we're a small culture, I work with Deb Eastwood at we get Grenada Swimming, okay? And I interface with the youth. I would say children between the ages of 5 and 16. These kids get it. And these are kids up in Carriacou. I hear the same story on all the beaches in Grenada. Okay, we have intellectual capital here, okay? The youth are smart. Kids being born today, they have intelligence, okay? But we have to nurture that. We have to develop that. Now, why am I saying this, okay? I think also for those, those business leaders in the community that get exposed, or hopefully people are sharing this, because I think we're talking about a lot of important points. We're coming to a crossroad, but I think the net outcome is that, and I've expressed the leadership, is that food is the next gold, stupid, okay? Food is the next gold, GOLD, stupid. What does that mean? We have a huge opportunity to produce food for food security. People use the word food security. We dodged a bullet with the East Coast. They had a temporary shipping shutdown. We're still not through that. There's another component of that that gets negotiated in January. That's going to be a bumpy road. So again, we have to plan independence for ourselves, and we do that through agriculture, having a quality product, good policy system that allows for beekeeping, agriculture, and other aspects of agriculture to thrive. And with other industries like health and education, these are things that we can execute on a high level. And there's no need for Grenada to be a secondary citizen at the table at CARICOM, but we can basically be a thought leader, and I hope to do that through agriculture and beekeeping.
One of the challenges that you have in beekeeping is queen rearing. We have one or two very successful beekeepers in Grenada. They're extremely quiet. They does well. Some of them have 200-300 hives.
Yes.
They does very well, but they're very quiet. Now, one of the challenges is queen rearing. Because we try to avoid bringing in bees from the United States of America because of diseases and Canada and etc., we used to buy queens from Hawaii.
Yes.
One's from Veracruz Island in Puerto Rico. Some people even explore New Zealand, it was too high.
Yes.
So we brought the might inside it by importing bees. So effort was made to stop the importation of bees. But how do you, the individuals who could rear queen are not interested in rearing queen. So one of the things in the Caribbean, if you have any island in the Caribbean where rearing queens, Trinidad with 1 queens, because they have Africanized bees. Guyana with 1 queens, and perhaps the United States of America.
Yeah.
So there's a market automatically for
well,
queens.
again, you're 2 for 2, Mr. Pierre, because as Joshua and I have been discussing, there's a couple major aspects of apiculture. You touched upon pollination. Everybody knows about honey, but the notion of generating good quality queens. We have connections in the Middle East, and I believe these are the same princes that were involved in the gift to Grenada. I guess that's still pending, but I heard at one time directly through the Emirates that there was money flow committed to 500 million, and a lot of that was earmarked to agriculture. Well, people on our board are actually involved and doing a lot of research. They're doing, a lot of interesting greenhouse development on vast amounts of land. Now, again, we're not blessed with vast amounts of land, but we can partner with, members in the Middle East that are big consumers. I mean, they typically consume, queens at $65 to $100 or more, based on the environment. So queens is a big part of our business plan. As I mentioned, brood production, packaged bees, we have to have that. With all respect to the beekeepers, and there are several that have over 1,000 hives, the size of the market is at least 10,000. And I'm doing more, sincere scientific research to see with additional plant materials, introduced to the area, whether we can scale that, which I suspect we can because of the existing flora and fauna. Okay. But at 10,000 hives, which is really where we need to be as an industry, or whether we do it, corporately, or we do it through a co-op model that we've also been discussing, and would be the preferred model. We're looking at a gap of at least 9,000 hives or close to it in the local market. So again, we created beeandcomb.com, and we basically are offering global supply products hives, equipment, smokers, clothing, everything that a beekeeper is going to need to basically support a business plan of a small, medium, and what you and I are talking about is really a commercial enterprise. A commercial enterprise probably consists of 500 or more hives. The business plan that I'm going to be implementing is going to call for initially 1,000 the first year, and we're going to scale up to 10,000 within the next 3 years. So those numbers in terms of the products, not only through the honey, but the pollen, the royal jelly, the propolis, the queen bee demand, you're increasing your domestic demand for queens because you need to replace your queens on a fairly regular basis. We choose to do it once a year. Okay. And then to your other comments about some of the other CARICOM partners, well, you just validated, the nature and the size of the industry. And, we're not talking chicken feed.
Right. Craig, could you just tell us if a small scale farmer wanted to do bees, the approximate cost, and give us that approximate cost as well in terms of a commercial farmers for the quantities you've been talking. Just a guide, really, because that's all we could do is just a rough guide in terms of costing.
Well, and it's really interesting because my answer is going to be a little bit more aggressive. It's more entrepreneurial based because here's the problem. And I've spoken with local, members of the Beekeeping Association here, and the number one problem is that, like in any hobby or potential career, people get involved, they run into challenges, and then they can't overcome those challenges, and they leave the market. Typically, what they do is people will be coached or advised to start out with, 1 or 2 hives. At a minimum, we recommend at least 5 hives and the equipment to really start that. And again, I think I sent you over the text with the exact numbers, but beekeeping is not an inexpensive hobby or business to pursue. So what we're thinking of doing is doing something very innovative on the financial side and even offer a leasing program so that qualified beekeepers that have gone through our certification and training program that have made a commitment to their education, we're going to do a unique program and do like a lend lease or some sort of unique joint venture type of opportunity. And again, these are for people that are accredited, that have been trained, that really have demonstrated a passion, or even going through other mentor programs that we want to offer on those different markets we've talked about. Because in order to really excite the industry, we need to expose a lot of people. I got exposed to beekeeping, probably when I was 10 years old. And, 1,000 years later, I'm still involved with it. But it started out being exposed as a youth and then just getting involved, going through the ups and downs of being, a hobby and then a commercial beekeeper. You have to stick to it. And I think a lot of people, they run into an issue, they drop out. But the costs are, and again, I don't know if you have that handy in your notes. I don't have my notes in front of me, but I did a quote. But it's fairly expensive. For Grenadians, it would be considered a expensive, entree into beekeeping. But I think, again, with a special financing program that I think we can offer, and we get some farmers to put some skin in the game, we can work that out. The second motivation that I would do that is we need to develop skilled farmers to work in our workforce. We can't have unskilled workers doing queen rearing, dealing with population. People have to be educated, they have to be trained, and these are not just your average daily labor rates. These are people that are contributing to a big business model. They have to be trained, and they have to know how to execute best practices, sanitary conditions, and other factors that are important to the industry development.
So a bit of monitoring and evaluation and mentoring is part and parcel of the course in order to have implementation and to get a degree of outcomes or success. So it sounds as though it's something that we have to have a strategic plan, and maybe this is a subsector of the government strategic plan for agriculture. But once we have that road map, the various stakeholders have to come on board from the schools and families to the farmers, the enthusiasts, the hobbyists, etc. But the economic spin-off from where we started is potentially so great that I think once we can show some success, I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more people know about the educational component, I think the more of a hold it will take on the society, and the more we would value the bees as a society.
Well, Joshua, yeah, I mean, and to build on that, I think my biggest frustration is being kind of a new player, in Grenada, is, not having the same, 40 years of relationships that I had in the United States and Europe. Okay. And again, you've been helpful in bridging that gap. And, we're lucky to have both of you gentlemen, educating and promoting agriculture because, I think it's a very important and tangible, vision and strategy going forward. Okay.
Well,
But
thank
having
you.
said that, we need to, yeah, you gentlemen are just, wonderful. We appreciate it. But we need to figure out a way to streamline. I think part of it, look, I believe that challenges, you can put two people in a room that are representing, different interests. And when they come to actually share a meal together, they spend time together, they get to know each other and really see that, when you bring a vision that's tangible for the edification and improvement of a country, that's something that we should all be supportive of. There's a gentleman, I believe his name is Winston Otley, and he was an invited speaker or commentary at a local Minister of Agriculture event this week, I believe, in Granville. And he hit it right out of the park. This is really a patriotic journey, that agriculture is going to determine our future, our quality of life for our youth and our older citizens, because at some point we've got to figure out a way to increase our tax system so we have greater liquidity, we become more independent over time. And the challenge that I'd like to release into the business community is that we have to engage constructively. It's easy to criticize, it's easy to, have, verbal media skirmishes, but it really doesn't accomplish anything, and it probably creates more divides. So we have to avoid that. We have to grow up. People, I believe here, and again, government for the most part, and I don't want to make this political, but, government employees are in a very important position. Okay. God created government and he created it for his purposes and his organization to remove chaos. And I would really encourage people that are in government to really reevaluate their purpose, their vision, their contribution, and really get that vision in order. Okay. Because God has placed them in a very strategic position, okay, for his will and protection and security of his people. And I think if we all agree or even have a discussion about that, why people are in government to serve and where we can make enhancements in their ability to provide and execute services, we're going to have a very, very, an even more desirable community and place for people to come to because, we're going about things, I think, the right way.
Okay. I've had a few discussions with some of the leading senior officers in the ministry, and some of them talk about, they say to me, Josh, you see this love for country? We need love for country if we're going to make a difference. Otherwise, we're just doing a job. We need that love for country to push that extra mile. So, in many ways, what you say in that conversation is already happening within government, but we
Well,
need
yeah,
it
I
in
mean,
the
and
wider society as well.
yeah, and there was a wonderful video that someone sent me. It was about Maurice Bishop and his journey. And just to tell a quick story, probably prior to the late 80s, I'd never really heard of Grenada. And a good friend of mine, actually one of my best friends, his father, Bill Hewitt, he was the former CEO of John Deere. At the time, he was the American ambassador in the U.S. State Department in Jamaica. So it was interesting. We're at his estate one weekend. This is probably back in the late 80s. And he gets a phone call. And it's from actually the president of Jamaica. And this was post Grenadian Revolution. But it was interesting because that developed and evoked a conversation between, really the three of us. And he happened to come back and he happened to share that, bad news that at that point, sometime probably in the early 90s, Jamaica had a devastating hurricane, probably comparable to Beryl, and he was looking for help. So we basically mobilized some forces. I had a fantasy of doing a concert with the Rolling Stones, and we were able to actually coordinate that. So that was very cool. I lost my train of thought, but the thing was that we have to seize the opportunity. We have to work together because we do have smart people. I think there's people in various silos of government and the public and private sector that feel stuck. We have to figure out ways to basically unstick them. Mobilize better communication. Another example. Right now where the poultry industry is recovering from barrel, et cetera. So chicks are being distributed. But there doesn't seem to be an ultimate or maximized strategy in terms of who are receiving those chicks. Now, if the policy is to release those chicks to small farmers for the purpose of feeding their family and local community, so I'm addressing poultry farmers between maybe 50 to 100 birds, that's absolutely fine. I think that's the right thing to do. But if you're using the distribution of chicks to really reseed your poultry industry, and those chicks are not getting to those stakeholders because they're not in the right alliance or association, well, I think that's problematic. That's holding back the industry because capital investment has to be made in beekeeping as well as poultry to really stimulate, both those industries. And those are things that we have to work together to overcome.
Yeah, and I think the government recognizes that, or certainly the PS in agriculture, because he's been talking recently about the need for that strategic plan so that we can have a roadmap for agriculture. It's very important that we look at the opportunities rather than saying we don't have. We say, okay, how can we do? And I think there's a new kind of approach in agriculture where, coming from the senior officers and the PS, where we're looking to do things, we're looking to fill the gaps, and we're looking to do it anyhow that we can. I think that psychology that we've had of waiting for somebody to come and do it is disappearing. Thank
Well, I
goodness.
think too. Yeah, I think too. I mean, if you look at what Kayron Crossdale has done with Chicken Farm,
Mhm.
I mean, he's invested his life since 2017, I believe, toward bringing a hatchling business to Grenada. So we need to embrace that. We need to get behind that. And we've taken steps through the Grenada Agribusiness Alliance, which is another hat I wear as one of the co-founders with Floyd Thomas. Basically a rising star in agriculture and politics in St. Andrews and St. Patrick's. But we stopped talking about it. We actually met and said, look, how can we add value to this industry? Who do we know that we can basically contribute and really try to fast track this program to impact the economy, jobs, and make a difference in the quality of farm produce, diet, health, and nutrition? Because I think those, from our perspective, are important and significant goals. Nutrition in Grenada is something we really have to work on. I think we have issues, although culturally, full, thick women are cool. But I think we have to be concerned about, the health-related issues of that diet and that nutrition and inroads in good pollinated, products, good, solid, clean meat, honey and related supplies. These things all fit together to have a healthful, hopeful society that has gainful employment and different opportunities. But again, I want to reiterate, this is really a call out to the local business community. I think in general, as stakeholders and leaders and entrepreneurs with the experiences we have as business leaders, this is not our first rodeo. We've been around for many, many decades. We've had successes and failures, but we need to engage and have meetings and conferences locally here in St. George's or wherever it takes to meet and network with the local community and create these opportunities. And it's our responsibility, regardless of whether we're getting support from the government or not, to figure it out and implement these opportunities, implement these visions. And that's where a healthy entrepreneurial community in Grenada is going to make a difference.
And time runs fast sometimes. We're coming on to the last 5 minutes of the program. Time flies.
Yeah.
So when we started, we talked about the economic importance. You have a number of people on the job market looking for opportunities. How do we sell beekeeping to them as one of the most economically viable product in agriculture?
Well,
Craig.
I think the answer to that question, Mr. Pierre, is really kind of going to surprise you because it starts out with a passion. You're going to go through obstacles, as we discussed earlier, And whatever your passion, whether it's beekeeping or a retail operation or running a political division, you have to have passion. You're doing it every day because you have a vision, you have a goal, and it's going to reach your family's financial, objectives, at some point down the road. So the bottom line is, we have to work together, setting up a community, setting up a network that's really a functioning network. Basically no person left behind. And I don't say that as a popular, political, narrative in the United States. We use that during the Bush administration for
Very
many
popular
years.
here too.
Okay,
Don't mean
but
nothing.
we're as strong as our weakest link.
Yeah. Craig, it's been fascinating listening to you. And whilst I was listening attentively, something came to mind. And what came to mind is the theme that was coming from you, which is that collective approach, and we're all in this together. And somebody once said, I think it was Chester Humphrey, that you don't have to be part of government to make a contribution to nation building. And I think what's forgotten sometimes is that we all have a contribution to make towards nation building. And listening to you, listening to Mr. Pierre, there's so many different facets of nation building that we have to pull together in order to build our nation. And I hope people listening to the programs will take it on themselves and do whatever they can to move us forward as a nation, because we all have a part to play. But I thank you so much for your contribution this morning, and I hope you will phone in the future and let us know how things are going. So
Well, gentlemen, it was a real pleasure spending my Saturday with you, and I would encourage the viewers to probably listen to this again because there was a lot of good material in it, and also encourage them to really, share this and pump this through social media because, again, communication is critical. As you guys know, you're in the business, but we look forward to having a successful partnership with you guys certainly going forward.
Yes, and we want to thank all those who participating with us today. The issue is the economic importance of honey. And you must know that if we increase our honey production by 1,000%, we still don't dent in the market. In addition to that, a bottle of honey in Grenada now sells at $60, and it's difficult to get it. You remember, we don't talk about pollen yet. Pollen is about $40-something a pound. Wax is about $15. You can't buy royal jelly. And pollination is important. So we want to encourage young people. Well, I don't say about young people again. People want to make money. You have some young people, they don't make no sense.
Yeah.
If you want to make money in agriculture, and honey have a shelf life of about 1,000 years in the first instance. If you want to make money in agriculture, the way to go is bee. And on our program, we encourage you to share our program, subscribe to our program, and participate. So we want to thank you very much. As in the next 10 minutes, we'll start the second part of the equalizers. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening.